also you have some of the civic groups that give you an idea of what they do and how they help us.
And by the way, it's allowed by statute. There's an actual statute that allows legislative people to attend these across municipality groups.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's one person attending for 55, just because it's a flyer and not a statement, I just want to clarify, it's one person for $55, and that would be you who's attending?
I asked anybody else.
If I don't need to go with my, I have a conflict that night.
Oh, so you approved it?
He asked me if I wanted to go, and I couldn't make it.
Okay, well, I just think, networking with officials is something that I do all the time without having to go and have a plated dinner to include medallions of beef tenderloin in a country club. And I also attend free events about the opioid epidemic and other educational events that don't require any kind of membership or fee at taxpayer expense. But I understand that this is something that's become somewhat of a tradition. But I personally don't agree with it. I just want to say that.
Okay.
I think in the past, we had usually more than just one. We had almost everyone years ago attended.
Anybody's welcome.
So we no longer do that.
Well, it just hasn't been, the new trustees just haven't
Right.
wanted to do that. Okay, all right, so are you just asking the question, or are you?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand the explanation behind it.
Okay, cool. Any other discussion?
Oh, one last question. Is this something you plan on doing every month?
Oh, no. Otherwise, I would have been doing it every month.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I think this is the third time I've gone since I've been a trustee.
I actually have a quick question. Is it $50 every time you go?
55.
Sometimes it's 40.
Like every month?
35, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on, what the dinner is, what the topic is, what speakers they have, how big of
Where it is.
a venue it is, where it is.
Okay.
So
So
each town that's a member or
Okay.
a
They
member
host it
or
around.
already township that's a member, or the county that's a member, they usually feature a restaurant or a country club within their jurisdiction, and then the mayor or the supervisor will, introduce everyone and have dinner, and usually educational topics.
the state's attorney, and then there's a legislative session where they talk about the upcoming legislation for municipalities.
Would this then be something that you could come back at a future meeting and let us know what you've learned and how it's?
Yes, I have the last 2 times.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet.
I mean, I personally, I think it's a good thing. I think the cost is very minimal, and I think it's a good thing for you to be knowledgeable and on the legislative different things that on these classes and different topics. And I also think it's good to have these networking sessions with some of these people that maybe don't come to some of the free stuff too.
Mhm. I see it as an aid also in helping us with our intergovernmental agreements. And I know I used it extensively in the village of Cary as a way to pull them aside in a social setting rather than just at a board meeting to talk about things that we could do together, and then bring it forward to our respective boards. So.
All right, any other discussion? Sharon, you ready for a roll call?
Yes. Victor,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes,
Bledsoe.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion for $11,648.88 to approve the general assistance fund. Can you motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No, okay. No discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Victor,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes,
Bledsoe.
Yes. Okay, so Pam has left me.
Well, we're looking at the road and bridge warrants. I don't have the signed copies. So,
We got a copy we can sign here.
No.
No, I have to sign his warrants, co-sign it, saying attest his signature, and I don't have those, to sign. So Pam was gonna go up and see if they're up there. If they're not,
Okay,
I would, Jim, we can't technically pay the bills, can we?
You can approve them, okay, but they can't be paid until, we get a warrant list signed by the highway commissioner and then it countersigned by the clerk.
They're on his chair. I did them.
Okay. So I did
okay,
not sign
so we
those.
cannot sign those checks or? Okay. All right, so we can still discuss it then?
And you can approve the payment.
Okay, all right. All right. So it's my understanding I have bills I'd like to pull. Is that okay?
Okay, hang on, let me, this is gonna be, okay, I'm ready.
All right, so there's one with Miller Dakota Inc. It's $172. And I have no problem with the bill whatsoever. It's a legitimate bill, except that it was over the A&E. And so we're just waiting for that to be corrected and we'll pay it next month. We have an extremely great relationship with her, so it's not gonna be a big deal.
Okay, good.
That we're not paying her $172. And then there's also the Compass bills, is that in this one?
Mhm.
Yes,
I think we have to have those, continue to pull those three.
$107,095.43.
107-95-43.
Yep.
How much was the Miller Dakota Inc.?
172.
172, okay.
And we made them aware of it and they were trying to rectify it, so it's not like we're not gonna pay it, but
Because it was in the, it was because it was where?
It was over the line item.
over the line.
Over.
So if anyone else has any other discussion, please go ahead.
So did you want to vote on those individually first?
I just wanted them pulled and I don't do
For
work.
separate consideration.
Or either way. Yes.
It made it really, I don't mean to interrupt, it made it easier last month when, I believe it was Rachel and, Dave, you withdrew, those bills from the stat, and we withdrew them, we didn't pay them, we didn't do, I had that.
Yep.
And then we had that amount, and then we took it, instead of each, you know what I mean, each motion, if you wanna pull all of those, that's great, for separate consideration, however you guys wanna do it, but it was easy when you just withdrew it, meaning
Okay.
we're not.
Well, I'll take back my motion, I'll just say please draw it, the person second to me, we'll do that.
Is that acceptable, Jim?
I withdraw the second.
Is that all of it you guys wanna pull from the?
No.
No? Okay.
I would like to, audit and remove 4 separate consideration and vote.
Okay, so we'll just do these first then?
Those have been withdrawn, so they're not being voted on, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so I would like to do something different, which is actually separate these from the pile
Okay,
to consider at this meeting, just separate from the rest of the bills in the Road and Bridge Fund.
okay, got it.
And, the 2 specifically are,
One sec, Rachel. You seconded his withdrawal?
yes,
Okay, so can we vote on that one real quick? That's on
No,
the
she
floor.
withdrew.
we don't have to
Right.
vote
just
on
withdrew
it. I
the-
withdrew
Yeah,
the second.
they withdrew the motion completely.
Right, but don't I have to have them pulled then, or?
I think you're just orally asking that they be pulled everyone.
Okay.
I pulled out.
I'm just trying to save time, I'm orally asking them to pull.
Okay, so all we're doing is pulling them out, let's go pull them, it's done.
Right.
Got it,
Now,
okay,
trustee Lawrence is making her motion.
okay. Sorry, trustee Lawrence. Okay.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to separately withdraw for separate consideration and vote 2 bills, which I will detail here. They don't have an identifying, number or invoice, but they are two Algonquin Township Highway Department trip expense reports, one from Daniela Sandberg and one from Andrew Gosser, both in the amount, each one, so two, each one in the amount of $298.28. I'm sorry, the first one is $298.28. The second is $278.56. And I'll leave that for discussion. I'd like to remove those for separate consideration vote.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion?
So the reason I wanted to pull these is because it's very typical and ordinary to receive expense reports for travel, for education, and all these sorts of things. It's completely normal. They're legitimately traveling for legitimate reasons. The only thing is that there's a minor error, and this is what our job is as auditors, is to audit whether it's incorrect or correct, whether it's $10,000 or $110,000. If it's incorrect, we need to pull it. And so on these two individual trip expense reports, they each, Daniela Sandberg, the one in the name of Daniela Sandberg, as well as Andrew Gosser, both are requesting, among others, among their mileage, they're also requesting a full day per diem meal reimbursement of $28. But as we know that this board and the township has already adopted a reimbursement policy, which is the same as the state of Illinois reimbursement policy. And that, which I printed out just for reference, is that the policy of the state is to only reimburse per diem for travel which includes overnight lodging or is for 18 or more continuous hours. And it also, in addition to that, so this was not an overnight trip, first of all, and second of all, the conference which they attended, which they also included the payment for that in their bills, which I have no problem with, that I'm not pulling. But I noticed in the actual form, it states that the conference itself includes lunch. So there's two different reasons why it should not be a per diem. And even though it's just a small mistake, and I just want to give them the opportunity both of them the opportunity to correct that in accordance with the correct code and resubmit it for next month so that we can get them paid for the work that they did.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay.
I have a question. Are our township rules binding to the road district? I understand the state of Illinois, law maybe, but does the township have any jurisdiction over the road district's policy?
That would be, my initial question would be, does the clerk have any record otherwise?
I do not have record of that policy because I would have to, maybe, I've never been given that policy, travel policy by you.
The only thing I think the only one, maybe Mr. Shea, who also can recall, I remember the vote. I didn't think that the township, when it was prior board adopted the policy. I didn't think they adopted the state rules. However, I can't tell you if the highway commissioner voluntarily agreed to participate in that. I mean, we have to go back, someone had to go back and look at the minutes, because I just don't, I couldn't tell you. I remember the vote, and I know that in some things he agreed to, I mean, the former highway commissioner agreed to subjugate or participate, but I have no idea what happened at that time. I would tell you Andrew Gasser could have probably changed that policy if he wanted to.
I would have
Which
to do some digging and
Without
then,
a policy.
Can I, right, well, even if there is not,
Yeah.
even if there's not a policy, the fact of the matter is that the conference included lunch. So if the conference included lunch, then why are we going out for lunch? If the conference includes lunch and you're on a taxpayer dime, then you should be at the conference and eating lunch at the conference, because that is what we're paying for you to be there. So regardless if it's a policy or not, there's no need to submit bills for lunch, for a day trip, for a conference that included lunch.
Trustee
Right.
Lawrence, was this for last Friday?
This was for, it says that the date of the event travel was April 12th.
April, so it's a while ago. Okay.
Yeah, it was something.
So
that was-
either way, I mean,
HR.
either way,
Right.
regardless of whether or not he has his own policy, at least by tabling them and allowing them to resubmit them with documentation will allow us to make sure that it's correct.
That's great.
okay, so we're not tabling though, we're gonna vote separately on these tonight, correct? Or do you wanna table them?
Get the vote table.
We're gonna have to do.
It's up to you guys, if you wanna vote no and then they come back next month, either way,
They
it's
can
gonna
always
be.
resubmit them. next
Right.
month.
Right, okay, so I'm gonna leave the motion to withdraw and vote for separate consideration. Okay. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to add that, you know, with past commissioners and past boards, and I mean, Mr. Gasser has made it very clear that, you know, other people have, you know, he's gotten on other people for spending money, and legitimate expenses, but then when it comes to this, you know, I mean, I just don't understand why he would find the need to submit this bill for lunch, because he has, you know,
Sure.
called other people out on the same thing. That's all I have.
Victor? So this is voting it to approve it, to approve, paying it.
No,
Chapman?
No.
Oh,
Separate.
to remove, oh, just to remove for right now.
oh, just to remember.
Sorry, just to remove.
Are you gonna make all, before we do that, are you gonna make all, each separate, get multiple?
Well, that was the two.
That was the only, okay.
So we'll vote to pull and then we'll vote to, approve. Okay? All right, so Victor? To
Yes.
pull.
Yes,
Okay, Chapman?
Yes.
Lawrence?
Yes,
Shay?
Yes,
Bledsoe?
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to vote, or is there any more discussion?
you only-
Okay,
now to approve them.
now we're gonna vote to approve them. Victor?
no,
Chapman?
Abstain.
Lawrence?
No.
Shay?
yes,
Doesn't it need to be a board member who makes that motion?
Yes, board member needs to make, I mean, who made the motion, who moved?
Originally, Lawrence did.
I made the motion
No.
to remove them for separate consideration. Now I will make the motion to approve these two bills, aforementioned bills.
Okay, do I have a second?
second,
Okay,
Can I ask a question about this?
Now you got it.
How much, what are we talking about money here?
576.84.
The difference is really not much. The fact is that it's incorrect. And that's our job, is to decide if something is correct or incorrect. And whether it's $5,000 or $5, it really doesn't matter. Our job is to determine if it's correct or not.
correct.
Yes.
And afford them the opportunity to correct it and bring it back.
But by abstaining, you're voting yes, right?
An abstention votes with the majority,
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
so.
Okay,
Just curious.
this is, to now approve it. Victor?
No,
Chapman?
Abstain.
Lawrence?
No.
Shay?
yes,
Bledsoe?
No.
Okay. Motion fails.
Okay. So,
So that's gonna be
Now
paid out of that amount.
Now we need to vote on the rest of them.
Okay, so the new amount
So-
is.
So we're taking Compass, Miller, Dakota, and the two reimbursements out. So,
yeah, I'll get a nice corrected for him.
You will. What is it, 119?
162, 69.
Okay.
Remainder numbers of the two.
298, 28, and 278, 56.
Okay, so do I need to get a motion on this or,
Yeah,
okay? I can get a motion to approve the road and bridge fund for $119,162.69.
I make a motion, we approve that.
Second.
any discussion? Okay, Victor, Victor,
Yes,
Chapman,
Yes,
Lawrence.
Yes.
Shay,
Yes,
Lexi.
Yes.
Okay,
All right. We have a road and bridge fund, a bill for two.
equipment and building.
Oh, yes, right. Okay. All right. Well, this one's bigger. I should have went with the other one. All right. We have, presented to audit the funds of the equipment and building, $438,788.55. If I can get a motion to approve the, equipment and building fund.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm not gonna remove anything. I think that it's very large because of the purchase of several, Peterbilt trucks. I knew because I had been, paying attention to this, that, yes, he did, he, as in the highway commissioner, did in fact go through the competitive bidding process, to obtain the purchase contracts for these trucks. And, but I was surprised when I found, hundreds and hundreds of pages about, this national joint purchasing system and other superfluous information inside of my packet, which was emailed each month. Thank you for everyone who does that. And I made a call because I was confused, like, why am I reading this? Because normally this is just bills and substantiating, documents, not hundreds and hundreds of pages on the actual joint purchasing lines. But I just want to reiterate that, to those people who work in the road district's office and to the Commissioner Gasser, that we as board members are tasked with auditing bills, not, research. We just need to verify that there was in fact a bid awarded, that it was legal, and that we don't need extra hundreds and hundreds of pages. That's all.
I have a, as in some respects what Rachel was talking about, I see we've bought a large number of trucks the last few years. We've got at least 3 dump trucks and a pickup truck of some kind. And yet I've yet to see any paperwork that shows that there was public notice of sales of this equipment. Are they still sitting on the property, or where are they? What is with this equipment? Because I noticed that when we look at previous budgets and present budgets, it shows that the disposal of equipment is $100. Well, that would be $33 a piece for these dump trucks that cost a couple $100,000. And I'm just trying to figure out what happened with that. Hopefully they have not been sold without going out for public bid. Now, they can be sold to other departments, but they still have to be documented one way or another, because it is a county asset.
they can,
That's strictly a mention about this.
sure. I did ask the road commissioner about that specifically, about the sale of the other vehicles. You understand that they can be advertised in Craigslist or eBay. They can be parked out in front with a for sale sign in the front of them, and that would constitute a legal sale if somebody came in and said,
Does it
yes,
have
I
to have
buy
public
it.
notice?
No, it does not for the surplus equipment. Once it's been declared surplus by the road commissioner, then that immediately frees them up to be able to sell those legally in the public venue, or, as some townships do, they use the auction service like we used at the Village of Cary for surplus equipment, and then that's advertised on the internet. But I did ask specifically to send Andrew a question about what happened with, the old equipment.
Did you get an answer?
Not yet, I haven't, not yet.
Okay, because it doesn't matter, even if you sold it parked out in front, it has to be recorded
It does, absolutely.
officially in the sale.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
As far as I know, they have not been sold, so.
Okay, anybody else?
I just have regarding his A&E report for equipment and building, it shows that he is over the percentage, and the A&E report does not make any sense to me. So I'm not approving anything. I will vote no to approve this. I think that you cannot be at 103% over. You cannot be over your percentage. It's supposed to be 100% or less, and he's at 103%, and so I'm not gonna approve any of it. And I would really urge that the highway department, to whoever's doing the A&E reports, to really look at these, because this is not making any sense to me.
Should we give this to our auditor and ask them to help us to understand that?
Perhaps.
Well, it looks like on his line item for equipment, vehicles, and machinery, his overall is over. It looks like, no,
He wouldn't be, he has this much left.
No, because he has that much left. He's at 77.8%, but then down here,
yeah, right.
for the change in fund balance, he's at 103%. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Right, because it's saying he's got it unused, but then it's over.
Right, this A&E report does not make sense.
I'll support.
I've asked every month for things to be a little bit more thorough, for the budget balancing to be more thorough, with the line items to be a lot more thorough. And some of it I am seeing that he is doing better on, the highway commissioner is doing better on providing a little more backup documentation for some things, and I applaud that. But at the same time, when these A&E reports are over 100%, how can we, in good due diligence, prove that?
Right.
We don't have money, and there's, it's saying that he doesn't have money. It's at 103%.
I only looked to see if he's over his line item, is the only thing I glanced at, so I didn't look at this percentage, but I want, Mary Miller's gonna be coming in shortly to help me with the audit, so I will ask her.
Do you mind asking?
No,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I'm
don't know,
just
I have no answer,
confused.
I'll talk to her.
So I just would like to say, when you're purchasing these trucks, too, what's nice about it is, not, in the past, I won't mention anybody else, but I'm not question, I don't have any professional knowledge in knowing what we should be purchasing or not, what's wearing out, what we need. It kind of would be nice to get an update on just why we're buying these trucks every once in a while too.
Well, and that's why I was asking, just so you know, about
I don't have the knowledge of it, I mean, you know.
the road supervisor's annual report. That's what I was hoping to glean, was where this is coming from.
Because I do know that in the past, there's some type of rotation, there's some
There is, absolutely.
logic to it. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying, it'd just be nice, you know.
And this
And it's
doesn't,
everyone's fault too, maybe I should make more phone calls over that way too, but.
this doesn't make sense at all, because it shows that he has 1,050,000, and then it shows total expenditures of,
I think this is.
175, yeah, it just, or 750,000. So It really doesn't make sense.
I think it's a software glitch with the changeover, but
Or is it somehow, Pam, is this showing, like at this point in time, a 14-month fiscal year? You know what I'm saying? Because we're already in the second, I don't know.
Well, no,
There's-
it went back to the old budget numbers got put into here.
But this says
Yeah, it
May,
doesn't.
year-to-date performance, May 2019 to current month.
Yeah.
Yes, so year-to-date it's from April
April
first.
first.
Right,
Mhm,
right, so.
yeah,
Yeah, this would be impossible.
1 month, these are-
In 2 months to be
Yeah.
at 103%.
so there should be enough money in the line item.
mhm.
Yeah, I do think that
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Mary Miller.
it's not possible for him to be.
I'm just,
No.
I wish Andrew was here.
I think it was, I do wish that he was here as well, but
just to explain, like, I just don't feel comfortable with any of it.
I think that we'll just have to make sure that it's updated and correct, make sure that it's correct in advance of the next meeting. I know it's very hard, I know I have, and maybe other people have had difficulty communicating with Andrew or getting any kind of return operation or discussion going. But this is one thing that we need to do our job, so, I do agree with Attorney Kelly that it's not possible for him to be over budget, but it is imperative that we have the correct information for next month, so that's what
I personally, I think it's pretty important for them to have that bill paid. And I don't think the vote no on it, I think it would be better to vote table it.
Yes, you're
Maybe
absolutely
table
correct.
it.
Table it,
Table it.
because we're showing respect instead of we're not.
Table till a time specific. So,
Right.
the next month.
So,
Does that make sense?
yes,
Okay.
we have the motion on the floor already to pay that amount. So I need someone to, withdraw that
Rescind it.
motion.
And who seconded?
You, made the motion and Shay seconded,
I rescind the motion.
okay?
Because I don't think there's anything mischievous here.
No.
It's just-
Right.
So that's why I'd rather do it.
So
that way.
Shay and I rescinded,
Okay,
and I'll make the motion to table it until the next, regular scheduled board meeting.
Melissa
Second.
All right.
and Melissa, okay. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, Victor?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes,
Lawrence?
Yes,
Shay?
Yes,
What's up?
Yes.
Okay.
So then do we need a new form for that too?
Well, that's the whole amount, right? So,
Or is it?
yeah.
Well, are you? You're not coming to
So we're tabling equipment and building.
the whole entire,
Yeah,
all the bills?
Or unless we have a meeting. And we're gonna talk about some other things, so. There. Okay.
So
That
what do you
whole-
put on the expenditure report, 0?
yeah, I guess so.
So all the bills are tabled?
until our next meeting.
No.
For equipment and building.
For equipment and building.
Okay,
And, remember, we can't pay those until I get that signature.
right. I can write the checks.
Right. I just wanted you to remember.
Thank you.
And I should be able to, if you,
All right, are we done with the equipment building?
Mhm.
Public comment? Anybody want to speak a few more minutes?
I will. The 59th precinct committeeman, and I think officially apologized to Dan, or to David Chapman, and I said that Dan Shea, that stands for him calling me a liar in front of the media. Okay, so, who is it that pays the salary of the union workers and Algonquin Township workers? We the people do. What construction firms are they in operation of? What factory, what corporate entity? How is it possible to even, for them to even be constitutionally here? Where was the vote? Because I missed that. That allowed the Algonquin Township to unionize. I don't remember ever voting for that. If the union's influence over the Democratic Party, who had blocked Andrew Gasser's purchasing power and the borders of Illinois, his presumed government shutdown would affect highway commissioner's duties here in Illinois. Overall, this still has the right thing for the anticipation that he might run out of salt for his community-based responsibilities to all of us. If a hypothetical reasoning would have been here, the Democrats, the old guard of the Miller Republicans, who would have hoped him to fail, would be getting the need for getting the need of the township. He cared more about the sacrificial right thing for us, where they didn't, or would leave our safety as something to play with. In allowing the neglect of our community, it would be at risk. And I'll add our families. We the people can clearly see what they're up to. Blocking his purchasing power here in Illinois, distributors believe that it was an inevitable government shutdown would affect his community responsibilities. So the salt purchase of the state facility, I believe he cared. But if only, excuse me?
You want that?
Operators unions that are they're the only ones that need to be being sued in this case. And if they're blacklisted Andrew for his purchasing power of salt, our immediate needs for safety were in jeopardy. For winter roads that prolong all the way through May. Good people ought to know the U.S. property taxes are never affected immediately. It always takes 2 to 3 years for our property taxes to actually be affected. So if people are here because of their property taxes, because of the old the old guard of Miller, they're here for the wrong reasons. It was Miller that's completely responsible for all that. And that's what I just said, 59th precinct.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that speak?
Yeah, I'd like to correct the gentleman's assertion that he missed the vote on union as under the law, the U.S. government law in 1960 for unions in federal, and state and federal workplaces. It could be a recognized agreement and no vote taken if there's shown sufficient cards have been signed by the employees of that bargaining unit. Okay, and obviously he doesn't want to listen to the law. Secondly, being in the transportation industry for 47 years, I'm now retired, from air to ground, and having driven tractor trailers and a CDL license at one point, I find it disturbing as a resident that the trucks aren't being traded in. Usually trucks that have their useful life come to an end can gather somewhere from $10,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 on trade-in, which then reduces the effect on the taxpayers rather than selling it to Joe Schmo that happens to pull up and see it and happens to be a friend and get away with $100 sale. So if there's any way you folks can talk to your state representative and see that legislation is passed that trucks are to be traded in, so that there is some accountability to the taxpayer that is forking over several $100,000 when there's other trucks that are just as reliable as a Peterbilt. You know, Peterbilts are the cream of the crop, and in heavy duty construction, and excavating, which the trucks are used for, you can find cheaper trucks that are more useful and better off to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, as a new face here, why is Andrew not president? Does anybody know?
He doesn't have to be.
Okay, is that his choice? It would be beneficial if he was, correct? To answer questions for everyone on the
We
board?
don't- As a rule, we don't answer questions in public.
Oh, okay.
But, that's fine. We got a small crowd. We appreciate both of you two gentlemen and even the reporter, for coming tonight. So there's no rule for a elected official like our township assessor. There's no rule that they have to come to the meetings where they're separate entities. And, we overlap in certain areas,
Absolutely.
but there's no requirement for them to come.
May I just read?
Thank you. Just giving you a face, that's why I was asking.
Just to sum it up and say it in a nutshell, that there's state law that specifically states that the highway commissioner is not required to attend these meetings. So as much as we would love it, as much as it would be beneficial to all of us and the public, everyone, he's not required to, and it is his choice not to.
Thank you.
And we ask them every month.
Anybody else?
Right.
Sure you do. Okay. Drew? Okay. All right,
You want me to read it?
please, sir.
As the professional reader for this township. This is a resolution for an Eagle Scout. Whereas Mr. Joshua Schneider of Crystal Lake, Illinois, has proudly achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest level in Boy Scouting. We probably should say scouting in the future. Whereas it is a tremendous accomplishment that less than 2% of Boy Scouts ever attain, the citizenry of Algonquin Township expresses its profound joy and pride. Now therefore, the Algonquin Township Board of Trustees hereby acclaims and applauds Mr. Joshua Schneider for his diligence, outstanding personal effort in reaching this goal of Eagle Scout. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of the Board of Trustees of Algonquin Township, dated this 15th day of March, 2019. And like I said, we maybe should start looking into this by scouting.
The same May,
No, pardon me?
the same May.
The 15th day of March is 2019.
What happened? I got the wrong
Does
date?
it say March?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's supposed to say May.
Okay,
well, we'll have to make a new one. Because you can't do the guy who scratched out one.
okay.
No
Well,
one white it out. I don't think that'd be cool.
no, we'll fix
We'll
it.
print a new,
I modify what I read to May.
So then we will put that in everyone's mailbox to sign and get it back to us.
Can I just add something about this?
Sure.
That is a huge accomplishment. That is so great. That is just so wonderful that, I mean, an Eagle Scout, my father was an Eagle Scout. My son has done Boy Scouts for many years, and I just think that it's just such a huge accomplishment. And
Such a
just bravo. I mean, it's just really a huge thing that he got his Eagle Scout. Like, good job.
Okay, so we might be able to correct it tonight.
She's gonna go
Want
correct
to
it
make a
right now.
motion on it?
Okay.
Wonderful.
What?
It's a resolution, you just want to need a motion on it.
Yeah, we need a
Motion?
We need a vote.
Motion approved?
I make a motion to approve as amended to today's date.
I'll second.
Awesome. Just all in favor, sign?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then, I don't know where this piece of paper is in my packet, approval of the motor fuel tax program.
Here, I'll get it for
Yeah,
you.
that, okay. Oh, here
It's in
it
the
is.
back.
Here it is,
The
okay.
original.
We just need, I don't know what we need to do with this, except approve it. It's a subdivision is eligible for receipt and expenditure of motor fuel tax funds during 2019-20 calendar year for maintenance of non-dedicated roads established prior to July 23rd, 1959, must make the application in writing from a delegated representative to the Township Highway Commissioner on or before 31st of May 2019. Such expenditures are governed by the provisions of Chapter 605 ILCS 5/6-701/8 of the Illinois Highway Code. And we can have a motion to that effect. And then we just need to approve it and sign it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay? Second?
I'll second it then.
Okay. Any discussion?
Sure, yeah. So as I understand this, this is a measure that is required annually for those non-dedicated roads that are out there in order for them to get service, whether it's gravel spread on their roads or boulders taken out of the middle of their streets or plowing, salting, any services that are done in the subdivision, that the money for that, it comes out of this $33,000 that's gonna be paid. That's from the motor fuel tax, and that's our township's share of that. The way that the program works here in Algonquin Township Road District is that those subdivisions, if they participate by helping out, if they put any money towards that, that money then is added to the MFT in order to help defray the costs of their subdivision. Now, the way I read this, and it troubles me, is that all of the subdivisions in the township that have the non-dedicated roads, do they know that they have to make an application in writing from a delegated representative to the Township Highway Commissioner before the 31st of May?
The last page is the public notice.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, one, I don't recall doing this last year.
You're not alone.
Okay. Number two, I'm not comfortable with leaving that date in there, the 31st of May, without reaching out and trying to contact those subdivisions. And to that end, I hope to ask Pam to give me a list of the subdivisions that meet here at the township building for their monthly meetings. And I'd like to ask, if this is not set in stone by the law, the expenditures are governed by 605 ILCS 56, no problem. But that date of 31st of May, if that's a legal date, then I'm bound by it. If it's not, I'd like to give them a month's leeway for them to get a notice from us personally, which I would be happy to do. I just need to know whether or not that date is set in stone by law, or whether or not that is a date that was arbitrary, just because our meeting is in May. Is it the 31st of May because then funds will be expended from the MFT money for the NDRs?
Mr. Chapman,
Yeah,
Trustee Chapman,
yes.
if I can speak. I believe, and I could be wrong, first of all, I'm gonna go back. Last year, you guys did not sign or approve anything. I went to the county with this and asked them if they had a copy of the signed, because I missed it. I didn't have anything in my records. They said they didn't sign it, and I asked if that's problematic, and I never got a response. So
Okay.
that ended. What I think the deadline is from what I've seen in the records, in the past records, is April. They have to get their things in by April, but I could be wrong.
Oh,
So, if we're not doing it on the timeline that they're expected to ask or request for the funding,
yeah,
then we're kind of putting the
Sure.
constituents in those areas, we're not doing them a service.
well, yeah, what it says is if they don't come in and send this thing in
Right.
writing to us, they don't get any of the services from the motor fuel tax.
I do know that most of those subdivisions have a representative that knows the program and knows how it operates and knows the timeline.
Clearly,
Yeah, but I mean, there may be some that are new that don't know or whatever,
Right.
but I think that it's not been made very clear to you guys, I know especially from any of the records I have. I'm supposed to get the report. They're not allowed to release those dollars without, it was my understanding, without your
Without this
approval.
side, that's right.
So that's where we are.
Okay, so Pam, I was gonna come to you anyway. I wanted to go to all the subdivision meetings and talk to them about the garbage plan, which is further on the agenda. So I'm gonna ask, maybe if you can find those ones that meet here, that have their monthly meetings here at the township.
The
A
homeowners
contact
association.
person, yes.
Okay.
I'll at least be able to do that, and then I'll know which ones then don't have a representative.
Mr. Chairman, just,
Yes.
I mean, I know a lot about this program, although it's morphed over the last 3 years.
Yeah,
It's changed, okay? But in this case, what happens is the county, unlike the municipality, the county controls MFT funds. And from the township's portion, a certain amount is allocated to the non-dedicated roads. As far as the deadlines, I think it's a deadline set by the county. I don't know if May 31st is correct or not.
right.
But what I don't see here is the program, is in which roads, if any, and this seems to me to be a approval of the program, which means the roads that we're going to be allocating or asking the county to allocate funds to.
Mhm.
So I mean, I just, in the past, I believe I've seen, the program actually lists the subdivision.
Yeah,
And I just don't see that here. So I'm wondering, but once again, the entire
It's
program has changed over the last 3 years, so I have no idea how it's currently operating.
I have to tell you that part of my concern was in reviewing the road commissioner's budget, the non-dedicated road fund was set to zero for investment back to the non-dedicated roads in our
But
township.
this would be separate and apart.
I understand that, but it looks like if the budget says that he plans to expend zero on the non-dedicated roads and a maximum of 33,000 is coming from the county as our share of MFT, that's not a lot of money to spread around subdivisions in the whole Algonquin Township. And,
But generally, these are used for programs. And for example, a non-dedicated road, a subdivision with non-dedicated roads could say, we'd like $4,000, just so you have an
Correct.
idea, $4,000, and you'd like to use that to purchase road salt,
mhm.
okay? And they can be done any number of ways. I mean, a lot of the township road districts, what they'll do is they'll get that $4,000, they'll incorporate it into their bid, whatever that's worth. And then in the salt shed, there's $4,000
Of
of
your
salt.
salt.
So that non-dedicated subdivision sends its contract over, they get measured out, whatever they get. They go and they lay the salt and come back until they expend that. Or they could use it to rebuild a road.
Yes.
They could have a contractor come in and resurface the road. But once again, I don't know. If I would have thought about it, the county's relatively, Said is very easy to contact.
Yeah.
And maybe you might want to just so much contact them, because I would hate to see the non-dedicateds lose out on their programs.
And as would I. One of the things that the former road commissioner used to do is work out with the subdivisions. So they wanted $4,000 worth of salt, and they could contribute several hours of labor of their own, which would cut down the amount of physical cash that they had to contribute to the program. And again, that's something that I don't see here in writing. And I don't know then that the current road commissioner has reached out to any of those subdivisions.
Can I just cut in? I've been waiting. There's just a couple of things I wanted to clarify. Just for the general public, and I know we only have like 3 or 4 people here, but there are people watching at home, and for all of us in general, I just want to clarify that the Algonquin Township Road District comes across, or maybe not as responsible for maintaining, but there are 3 different types of roads. There are municipal roads, which is handled by, for example, the village of Cary. The Algonquin Township does not do anything on those roads. Then we have dedicated, which is unincorporated township maintained roads, like the one that I live on, for example, is a dedicated unincorporated township road, which is plowed and maintained by the township. Then we have non-dedicated. Now, these are private roads. These are not, public roads, these are private
Yeah.
property, which then apply as part of the county, program, to ask for some help maintaining those roads. And, that was the first thing, is just, I just wanna make that abundantly clear that this is not going to affect township maintained roads. This is not the normal roads that he comes across, and is always responsible himself for maintaining, not himself, road district itself responsible for maintaining. The second thing that I just wanted to point out is that this was, even though we may be seeing this right now, this was published a month ago, May 1st, a month prior to the deadline. This was published, or at least submitted to the newspaper on May 1st for a deadline of May 31st. And although this is the first time I've seen this packet, this is not the first time that I've seen this public. Don't quote me on this, because it may have been on the Highway Department's official Facebook page. But I do remember hearing about this before through an official channel. So, I don't believe that anybody is being purposely cut out or anything like that. And also having to do with having a little bit of experience with this last year with a constituent who had questions and kind of helping them navigate through it. I learned a little bit about it, and I learned that a lot of the delegates is what they're called. In these, sometimes they're homeowners associations, sometimes they're just 4 houses on a private street. A lot of they're called delegates, and they fill out a form and to become the delegate. And then, but they're most of, I would venture to say, a rough estimate, 90 or more % of these people are well aware of the program, and it's an annual thing for them. And I don't believe that if anyone is missing out, I don't believe that it's very many at all, but I would be more than happy for you to reach out to them individually if you feel like that's going above and beyond your duty. But if you feel like you want to do that, I no problem doing that. So.
The county also has a non-dedicated, and I think they work together with the township.
Yeah.
My only concern, Jim, would be the, as far as the board's responsibility, what their role is in that. If that's to be brought before the board, then we need to make sure that's done the rest of the time they're in office, is my feeling.
All right.
My experience was that if you have, say you have a certain number of dollars, and if it's undersubscribed, you can extend the program.
But wouldn't they be essentially, because it's a monetary program, wouldn't they have a duty to know about it and be able to approve it? Because, I guess I don't understand, if they don't have to approve it, then why are we doing it?
I know it's been approved, and it's a requirement of the county to get a township board approved program.
Okay.
However, I would tell you that I think that it's pretty much the road district highway commissioner's job, duty, responsibility to select what subdivisions. I'm just pointing out here, he doesn't really identify the programs.
Right.
So you're approving this without knowing the programs, but at the same time, I would hate for any subdivision to lose out on a single cent. And I think Mr. Shea was chairman of the county's transportation committee.
Since my youth.
Yeah, I would really defer to him as far as what the process is. Although, as I said, it's changed over the last 3 or 4 years. I just can't.
They've relaxed many of the responsibilities of the road owners. but mostly, there's a question, and one of the questions is, once you accept public money for your road, can you still have that sign that says the private road, residents only?
I'll tell you that this is an exception to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, that's absolute, this is an absolute exception. And there's a, I won't go any further, but this is an exception.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll vote in favor, but I still will be reaching out to all of the subdivisions, and HOAs that I can.
All right, did we have a motion?
Any,
Yes.
any other discussion? Okay, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Victor,
Yes,
Chapman?
Yes,
Lawrence,
Yes,
Shay,
Yes,
Wetzel.
Yes.
which one do we sign? Everybody has a, Blank
Chuck
one?
Chuck has the original.
I know, no, you've got it.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just sign, Dave, it's the one right here.
Oh, it's not this one, that's in my, the
No.
original?
No, that's
I knew
this
it
one
was.
is the,
the original.
That's the original. That's a copy that.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so
Come on, sir.
we need to do ones. We have a discussion and action, possible action regarding proposal of Algonquin Township Road District Ballot Initiative Referendum. I believe we're talking about the, referendum that, trustee Lawrence has submitted to the board, and at the last meeting, we tabled it in honor of our outgoing trustee. And so, if anyone has any discussions before, trustee Lawrence,
well,
let's go with you.
first I'd like to just read it aloud, take the place, irreplaceable, and read it aloud. Resolution of Algonquin Township. A resolution to submit to the Algonquin Township electors a ballot initiative to abolish the Algonquin Township Road District in accordance with general election law and 605 ILCS 5/6-134. Whereas Algonquin Township is a unit of local government located in McHenry County, Illinois, and whereas Illinois specifically 605 ILCS 5/6-134 grants the township board the authority to submit to its electors a proposition to abolish its road district. And whereas the Algonquin Township Road District currently operates under the control of a single elected highway commissioner lacking board oversight. And whereas even the Declaration of Independence states in part that governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed, and that it is the right of the people to alter or abolish, hyphenated or in brackets, it. Therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Algonquin Township Board that all required actions be taken and notices made to allow a proposition to be timely submitted to appear on the next eligible general election ballot of all Algonquin Township electors, which shall state as follows. Shall the road district of the Township of Algonquin be abolished with all the rights, powers, duties, assets, property, liabilities, obligations, and responsibilities being assumed by the Township of Algonquin? Yes, no. Adopted this blank day of blank, 2000 blank by a roll call vote, and then the formalities at the bottom. I would I think that we've discussed this to death over multiple meetings. And so I'd like to just go ahead and make a motion to adopt this resolution as written today.
I will second your motion.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Yep.
Okay, we have 30 seconds.
No, that's not what you told me before. All right, so with the permission of the supervisor, I did go ahead and I know we've discussed this to death, but I wanted to do it anyway because there are so many misconceptions, there are so many moving parts, there are so many different intricacies to this resolution. So I wanted to start out and break it down as simply as possible. So don't look at this whole thing, just listen to me and I will break it down for you. So first thing, a lot of the things that the misconception, one of the biggest misconceptions I have is the difference between a resolution and a referendum. A resolution is this paper right here, voted on by the 5 board members today. That's it. It does not change in itself. It does not change anything. That is the resolution. The board, the 5-member board votes to allow a ballot vote for the public, the electors, the registered voters who live in Algonquin Township. If passed tonight, it simply allows a public vote at the ballot box. Law stipulates that it would be the next general election. I believe that to be the presidential election in November of 2020, which, if true, would allow for a massive turnout, a very good turnout, and very high voter participation, which would inevitably lead to very accurate results. Referendum has ballot box. So if it is approved tonight, which it may or may not be, it will pass to referendum at that general election ballot, which you will then, the voters will be able to vote on at their ballot box. So it would then be a ballot question for all voters within Algonquin Township, only Algonquin Township. This does not affect all townships. That's another misconception. If it was passed with 50% majority of the vote, it would eliminate the taxing road district. It would eliminate it outright. It would eliminate an elected highway commissioner position. It does not eliminate the road district services. The law itself actually says that just like it's stated in the resolution, that the Township of Algonquin, which is this 5-member board, which then be all the rights, powers, duties, assets, property, liabilities, obligations, and responsibilities would be assumed by the Township of Algonquin, which is this 5-member board. So it does not in itself eliminate any road services, any services that are currently offered by the road district. It does provide for all road district duties, like I just said, to be taken over. It does not. This is a huge misconception. A lot of people are thinking, oh, I want to vote for it because I want to get rid of one person. That's not exactly true. It's not true at all, actually. It does not take effect, it's written in law that it does not take effect until the end of the current commissioner's term and the board's, which is coincidentally the same time. It does not take effect until the end of the then current highway commissioner's term, which would be 2021 in May. Currently, what we have is a township. We have a 5-member voting board. We have, when people disagree, we have a majority rule. We have 5 different people with very different opinions to work together and discuss things and make decisions together. The township board itself cannot oversee the highway department, just like we were discussing. We can't tell the highway commissioner to sue somebody or not sue somebody. We cannot rein in any hypothetical sue-happy highway commissioners. We as a township board, literally have no power over road district litigation, hiring and firing, etc. A lot of those hiring and a lot of those firing, especially with this current highway commissioner, has resulted in litigation that has cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and is expected to at least double. And that's being a very conservative estimate before it's all said and done. The road district currently has no board oversight. We have very little, like I was explaining about the budget, we can approve those portions of which we can deem necessary, but we can't switch around things. The road district has one elected highway commissioner who cannot be fired under any circumstance unless he is convicted of a crime, or what's the other one? Official misconduct. So, that one highway commissioner is also not accountable to the board. So if there is a screw up, if there is a mistake made, if there is a law broken or something that is done that is not in accordance with law, there is no one to whom to report them to or to hold them accountable to. Although I have tried. The road district sets and spends its own levy with and budget with little to no oversight, like I was mentioning about the budget. Some of the potentials, if this resolution were passed tonight, and if it were passed at 51% or over 50% at referendum at the ballot box, the board could hire and fire a qualified professional to oversee roads who is accountable to the board, to maintain and continue all of the great services and even maybe expand upon them that the road district currently offers. Two, if passed at referendum, the public would have advance notice because the referendum would not be held, like I said, until I believe November 2020. The new township officials, which when this would go into effect is 2021, when this entire 5-member board, also our terms would expire. So between November 2020 and 2021, or the election in April of 2021, the spring election, when those new township board members are elected, the public would have the ability to vote for those people who would run their township how they want it to be run, whether it's an elected person, I'm going to call it highway manager, for lack of a better word, because it's up to the next, board to determine that. They could determine whether it's appointed. They could determine whether it's a hired position. They could determine which services are, they could determine everything. So, but like I was saying, this in and of itself does not change anything. The referendum in and of itself does not change anything, except for the removal of the elected highway commissioner and the taxing body of the road district. If it's not passed, this is something else that other people, that many people have asked me about, and that a lot of people may not be aware of. This is why it's beneficial, whichever side you stand on this issue, I think it's beneficial to let people vote. Because if you vote to abolish it, good for you, you've gotten what you wanted. If you vote that you don't want it abolished, which lots of people who I know want to vote because they want to vote no. And that's okay too, because I believe that people should be able to vote. If it's not passed at referendum, if it does not reach over 50%, the simple majority, there is current legislation that states that the same ballot initiative, which is the same interchangeable with the word referendum, cannot be brought again for the next, I believe it's 2 years. So if you want to save it and you want to make it so that this question can't even be brought up again for 2 years, I would want to vote so that I can vote no. The last things and the main points that I want to leave with is this does not eliminate or consolidate townships. There's so much controversy out there right now about all this legislation that's moving through and about with some of our state representatives who are pushing bills or recent bills that have been passed about consolidating and eliminating townships. This is not a pro or con township action. It has absolutely nothing to do with eliminating or consolidating townships themselves. Also, the referendum passage, remember I'm talking about at the ballot box, the referendum passage in itself does not, and this is the bill which I quoted, 605 Illinois Compiled Statute, ILCS, 5/6-134, does not reduce or eliminate in itself road district services. Doesn't. In itself, it doesn't. That's up to the next board, which the public will have the chance to elect. Lastly, it affords the future township board, effective 2021, elected again by the public, to determine those duties and rights. The people have the power to elect the next 2021 board. And lastly, and maybe more importantly, some of the big complaints out there is, you just want to cut it, let's see a cost savings, let's see, I want to see that this is gonna save me money. I cannot emphasize enough that this is not a save a buck proposal. This is a good government proposal. This is a proposal to bring oversight to an office that has none. So this is not a save a buck proposal. This is about oversight and good government. And the main premise is that government should be run by the people, for the people, and we should let the voted vote. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation.
At the very least, can I just say one last thing? I think, I'll be quick. So I think that at the very least, okay, so every single official who is sitting at this table right now was elected to serve our constituents' best interests. And I cannot think of a better way to serve my constituents' interests other than letting them speak at the ballot box. And I just, whether it passes or not, I think that the public can at least see which of their township officials think that they should have the right to vote on this issue or not. That's all. I'll leave it at that.
Okay,
My turn.
sure, I'll limit you to 1 second.
Well, let's look at it this way. We have a group of people out there who went out and put out all kinds of accusations which have had no action on them at all. It turned out that cost us some money and took away essentially the reputation of years and years and years of not only this township, but all the township road commissioners doing an excellent job. Turns around, and now with all that pressure of, as I said, unsubstantiated information, we ended up in this case with a person who is either intentionally or unintentionally totally incompetent and has no interest in the public, is more interested in pushing through this ideology. And what has it done for us? It has cost the public money, and anybody who is or was in support of that person should be extremely ashamed and should apologize to the public for just that. And what gets me is this is essentially a situation where you need more town oversight, but most people do not understand what you need for a township road commissioner. It doesn't take an engineer. It doesn't take an expensive person. All of the things of consequence beyond purchase of trucks, etc. Turns out that speed signs on township roads, yield signs, stop signs, others, township road commissioners cannot do that themselves. They have to apply to the county highway engineer. That's just that part of it. Paving. To get paving, they approval for buying asphalt, etc. They have to go through the township engineer. And in fact, the township engineer, people don't realize, the county appoints him or her, but the state has to approve it. And that's why it's always a certified true engineer for that. And the same thing comes when things that should be opened and put out for bidding, the county oversees that part of it, as I said, with the paving, etc. Townships can do their own, if they want, do their own speed studies, but they can't approve a speed zone without submitting it to the county. Usually the county does it for them, but we're paying them for it, and it's a much lower price. So what I say is we should be approaching the state to have some more level control on the budget of the highway department at some level. What level, I don't know. None of these things have any control. But I see something where you start opening this up to where the people don't get to choose a highway engineer. It's chosen by the board, and then we start getting into things we've had outside of the board, referred to as either pay to play or partisanship, which we definitely had here. And maybe some control also of the help. But as for picking somebody, it just begs to have favoritism by a board. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no reason in the world to change the system we have now based on this one losing position we have. Now, I would think that a person's own reputation and conscience would allow them to go along and not have the situation we have here. I was spoiled because I've been here longer, well, not longer than Chuck, but we had someone that came and was part of the team, not an outsider for the roads, and explained to us ahead of time, handled a lot of the things here, such as we were looking into improvement of the septic system here, things of that nature. These things were not pushed off with all kinds of excuses. There's all kinds of money been spent on court cases that are lost, and just keep bringing them up, mainly to make this look bad in my mind. And it should be handled better, and I'm not sure what can be done about it. We're probably working on it, but that's another story. So for the most part, all I can see is what we have here is the equivalent of a person who's throwing a tantrum. And if we bow down, just as we would maybe with a kid at home, and give in to the tantrum, you know what you got next week? Another tantrum. And I rest my case.
Can I just ask you a question? Can I just ask you a quick question? In the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that the referendum wouldn't be until November of 2020, right?
The next eligible general election.
Is that not the case? I thought it was the next, it could be in the primary as well, right?
It's not general.
General, but I'm gonna defer to.
Yeah, I'll tell you that, that's always comes up as a question.
Yeah.
In the way a general election, I think, is every election which all the voters can vote at, not just a special election.
Okay, so it could be in March.
So it could be at the primary. So, for example, if you just had a referendum suddenly placed on a ballot during the term where they're just
Because it's called
municipal
a general
election.
primary.
Yeah, where you just have municipal elections, well, not everyone in unincorporated McHenry County or Township would be voting. So
Well, doesn't that
Generally-
defeat the purpose or the definition of that you just
it's
stated?
a terrible
of this?
definition, I agree. But I believe it would be at the primary also. I think the election code, when I've run into this before, they considered the primaries as a general election for the purpose of referendums and things like that. I haven't,
But there's still, whether or not you are whichever party you,
right,
a ballot you draw,
Just so that,
there would still be a party, like, for example, you pull a nonpartisan ballot, it would still be on that ballot.
correct. But
So anyone, if they knew, which this would be a very big,
everyone
issue
that
for
pulled
someone
a
to
ballot
vote.
would have that referendum.
Right.
I wasn't
Okay.
trying to put words in your mouth, I was just trying to say,
I
the
completely
way
understand.
you presented it would be a general election, because even though there's primaries, a lot less people show up for primary elections than they do a
Right.
general presidential election.
Right, so maybe it wouldn't be, and like I said, I
We'll look at it.
believe, and I didn't say that was for sure, that I knew that for sure. But nonetheless, I still think that this would be a major turnout election because it's such a consequential and such a very deeply controversial issue that just like the last, remember when the 2016 election happened and the turnout was a little higher than usual then as well because of the one
Yeah, but if you
simple
want all the
question.
voters, you
Yeah.
want them to come out in the November election, because one party may only have one candidate.
I think that we should vote on it now. I think that we've been dilly-dallying with this enough. Although it would be ideal, in a perfect world, we would have every single person voting and the most, I'm willing to, I think that it would be, I think that we should work with what we have now, which is this opportunity. The other thing that, just in response to Dan, is that I don't think anyone, and you mentioned, and I don't think you meant offense by it, I didn't take offense by it.
True.
But you mentioned, sorry? Oh, okay. Respectfully, I don't think anyone should apologize for exercising their right to vote. I think that when we start chastising people for voting a certain way or say that they were fooled into voting a certain way or that they were duped or that they voted for someone who turned out to be completely different from what they thought they would be, I think that I'm staying away from that because I know what it's like to be duped. I think everyone who has ever voted, I think knows what it's like to be duped or fooled in some fashion or another. And so I don't think I'm gonna demand that those people apologize, otherwise we're asking more than half of the voters in our township to apologize. I think that's, I don't agree with that. But what is the other question that I had is that you mentioned, that this is that if I understand correctly, that it's your opinion that that we shouldn't make, and I'm just gonna say what I heard and not try and repeat verbatim what you said, but what I heard you say is that you don't believe that there should be policy changes or structural changes to something that is what you believe to be a problem of one person. And what I'm saying is, and why I specifically avoided mentioning any one person's name, is that what is to prevent another situation like the one that we have now? There is nothing other than this resolution or maybe some potential future legislation, but we're not legislators, we are a township board. And this is what we've got.
Melissa?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, thank you, Rachel, for that really informative presentation. I felt it was a very, very well thought out and a well presented thing to just kind of inform everybody of what's going to happen if this would pass, what would it happen if it, what would happen if it didn't. So in that regard, it's like, I thank you for that because I know you put a lot of time into that. However, I feel that my thought process on this is that it would actually take the voters' right to vote away from them in the long run. Because originally, yes, they could vote to put this on the ballot. But if this would pass, and if this referendum passed, then it would actually remove power from the people. And they could be stuck with another situation where what if we have a bunch of board members, what if we have the next 5 board members and they're all very one-sided? And it is a, pay to play or a choice of like something, maybe a bit of favoritism one way or the other. Then the people don't have that right anymore. They don't have the right to say, well, we don't want this person. I do believe that legislative changes need to be made. I do believe we need to have more oversight. We're in 2019. I'm hopeful that there will be some legislative changes coming down the road. I think it's too soon to push this and to vote for this. I think we should wait to see if there are going to be any other legislative changes made first. And also, let's remember that there have been many years of many townships being run very, very well. And so one bad egg in the bunch, I don't feel that we should just jump to that conclusion and say, oh no, now we need to make this drastic change to affect everyone. You know, this is 4 years, and yes, it is definitely cost us, but I do believe that the taxpayers now are going to pay a lot more attention and really do their research with the next highway commissioner in the next election. And I think a lot of it is people didn't realize how critical it was for them to vote on, you know, the highway commissioner and all of the responsibilities and the power that the highway commissioner, the things that he could do, he or she could do and cannot do. So in that respect, I do have full confidence that the people will vote much smarter with this next upcoming election. And I just don't think that we should give them one chance to vote and then take away all the other chances to vote moving forward. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Dave? No. Okay.
You asked a question, can I just
Can
wanna
we,
answer.
can we, I'm happy to talk. You worked so hard on this, and we appreciate your efforts, let's try to wrap this up if we can too.
I think this is a very important topic, and I don't feel like this should be truncated in any way just for the sake of you getting out of here faster.
Okay, all right, I didn't mean it that way.
Okay,
So please.
well, since you asked the question, Trustee Victor, you asked specifically, what if it was a play with the next person? I think you said, and I'm assuming that you mean like the person who's put in charge or who replaces the highway commissioner in the day-to-day.
It would be
duties.
by the board
Right.
choosing that person.
So you
what
said,
they
what
choose.
if it was a pay-to-play with the next road manager, and you expressed concern about the what you feel would be the people, the voters, loss of their selection
Loss
of
of
that person.
control.
Now, right now, and I'm gonna say this with the utmost respect, is that right now, they have no control.
I know.
They have no control about removing someone. At least if this 5-person board, were responsible for the hiring, they could fire that person as well if they were not performing. That's something that is not possible right now. And the other thing is when
But
we
you're
come
just
in.
changing it in from like one to the next. Like you're just changing it. So like what if these 5 board members end up hiring somebody?
So the other thing is if they're not performing, that it's something that's granted, that is not granted right now, is that this 5-member board with 5 different people on it, elected by the people, elects them, or not elects, hires, because it would be a township employee, which law states that the entire township board has to hire any township employee with the exception of the office of the general assistant. But you said, what if it was a pay to play? They could be fired, where right now they couldn't be. And now I know you've sat in here with me for all these meetings where we have sat and listened to person after person and lines out the door of people complaining about one specific person, which we have no control over.
I do.
And that would actually give those people the power to have a board that can do something.
Right, but we can't do anything about our current commissioner right now. All we can do is hope for the future, and we only have 2 years left. So if we can hang on for 2 years, I think the people will be a much more educated in who they're going to vote for with this next election.
Any other discussion?
I have one thing to add at one level, and it's, I must admit I'm biased due to the fact that I've never made a mistake in my whole life. And if you don't believe me, you can ask either one of my ex-wives. And that's how serious I take this.
I think, if I could just say one more thing, I think if we were dealing with this issue with highway commissioners again and again and again, okay, years after years of, you know, what we're dealing with now, then I could see something like this being maybe brought to the table. But I do believe there are going to be more legislative changes coming up and down the road for more board oversight. I'm very hopeful of that. It's only 2019. Why do we have to rush this right now and rush this decision right now? And I do think people are going to be a lot more educated when they're voting. But, you know, just for one term, for one bad egg, why are we going to jump the gun on this? It's one in, you know, 30 years, over 30 years.
But what's to prevent another, I mean, with all due respect, the last two, not just the last one, the current one, the last two highway commissioners of the road district have come under some sort of investigation, law enforcement investigation.
And they found absolutely nothing
And that's
with Bob Miller.
and that's,
Yeah.
So
and they so far found nothing with this one. But the fact
they
is that
found a
we've
lot
had
with this
two.
one.
Well,
That they found reasonable cause to send us subpoenas, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is not just a
I think we
one-time
should
thing.
focus on.
Okay, so that's all I have for
Okay.
discussion.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a roll call, no more discussion, right? Okay, please, do a roll call.
Victor,
This is to,
You would vote
Adopt.
To
no,
adopt the resolution.
vote yes to adopt, no to,
okay, no.
Chapman,
No.
Lawrence,
Yes,
Shay,
No,
Bledsoe,
no. Okay, motion fails. I'm gonna read this into the public notice. I will hand the copy to the township clerk so that we get this in the minute. Dear Township Supervisor, there's a change in, township assistance, and I just want to read this motion. October 2018, Department of Human Resources raised the general assistance monthly amount from $245 to $304. The amount was voted on at the supervisors meeting in November at the TOI conference and was approved effective June 2019. The general assistance monthly grant will be $304. Obviously, that was very quickly. We need to have those in the minutes. I will hand you.
I've got a copy.
Okay, you have those in the
Jim,
minutes?
can I just add it as an addendum?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I just need to do that.
Do we need to vote on anything?
No,
Okay.
okay. The next one was something, another thoughtful idea from Trustee Lawrence, and I talked to other people as well. Trustee Chapman, but we talked a little bit about this discussion of waste service pickup for unincorporated Algonquin Township. So one of the things that Trustee Lawrence, I don't want to speak for you, you can speak obviously for yourself, you know, obviously, but I've heard it from other constituents that I know of a constituent that lives next to Cary, but it's incorporated Algonquin Township, and the person pays somewhere around $30 a month for their waste pickup, okay? Where the person that lives in the town of village or city of Cary would pay $11 for pickup because they're able to get a bulk rate from the provider.
Yep.
And I know that, so that's something that if someone could save, if we could save somebody $20 a month or $15 a month, that might not be a bad thing. So, I'm happy to get input from anyone here. We just started working on it. Pam went to the, Township of Nunda Township and got some information. They went to a competitive bidding process as well. And so they were able to lower their costs for their unincorporated residents. I
and it
know,
also involves the referendum as well.
yeah, well, I'll get to that. And so there's so she is put together some information here, packets that we started gathering the information. I don't have any clue. I talked to our former highway commissioner who said that he thought it was, he thought something was in the area that this might be a popular program, except Algonquin Township is spread out all over the place. So what he said to me was, he didn't kind of mess with it because there was a lot of neighborhood watches, neighborhoods like the Manor is a certain area where it's kind of all blocked off and over there by the gas station. And they went and negotiated with certain waste company, I don't know which waste company, but certain homeowners associations have negotiated with waste companies. We don't know which ones have, which ones haven't, because, it's a lot easier for them to deliver all in a little area next to each other, but one person coming to one person's house and then another person coming to another person's house. So there's quite a bit of a program. So depending on what kind of input you get, what I'd really like to see is if we can somehow get the word out, and we're talking to the other people, is to get a feeling from these homeowners associations if it's something that they want us to approve. In order to do that, there's a resolution. We have a copy of it. It's not for us to decide tonight. We have a copy of that, and the Township of Nunda has been very nice about, they'll provide us any type of RFP that we might need. We've talked to the county as well, because they need to be involved. But if we could potentially get a bid for the unincorporated areas, and there would have to be a referendum as well to pass that. And we have done a ton of research, but obviously when people pitching pennies and people talking about property taxes, is if there's a way that the township could get a bid from a company and it would save taxpayers some monies, that would be great. So I appreciate you bringing up the idea. We started the research. We got really a lot of good help from a cooperating township. So if you have opinions, go ahead and bring them, but if you get the word out to the unincorporated areas, I know Dave's our ambassador.
I talked to 2 of them already, so.
And so,
Yeah, they love it. They think it's great.
and so that would be something that is a positive, we can lower their costs. I know we have an independent streak in our township live in unincorporated areas.
Yes.
They have an independent streak in them,
Yes, we do.
but, they love their guns, don't just kidding. But anyways,
Yes, we do.
so anyways, but if we could do something like that and that would work, let's get as much input as we can.
Two difficulties we have to work with it.
Okay,
It's not part of our township, but there's a bunch of Lake County that we have no jurisdiction over, but it's serviced totally from here. And there's a part of the township that's serviced off of Kelsey Road that actually is
Cuba,
more,
Cuba?
Cuba Township
Yeah.
takes care of that. I mean, it's not, so many of the other townships are entities in themselves,
Not as heavy.
but ours has a number of things. Plus, you have to remember that when you get, we would not have much of a problem with it, but business and multifamily is outside the programs too.
Yes.
There's a bit more
that's right.
nuance than we had expected, so we will be definitely looking into this. I appreciate the work that you did, Pam.
Thanks.
I just got an email from a concerned constituent, and I sent off an email to who I thought might be the one to handle it, would be the commissioner. He expressed no interest whatsoever, so I reached out to you, and Pam, you did an excellent job proposing this, and Supervisor Jennings from Nunda Township, thank you for helping us with the sample of how you got it done. Obviously, it's gonna be a little different for us for exactly those reasons that Trustee Shea and you had mentioned, but I think that this is a good start, and I think that this is something that we should really explore more.
I agree.
I don't think we need to go further on that.
No.
Okay, and discuss and adopt the policies and procedures of the resigning trustee. So first of all, before we're talking about you behind your back, I just want to thank you for everything you've done. You've been a good friend and you've done a good job, and we appreciate it. We understand that you're off to better things.
Now get out.
Now, don't let the door hit you out of the way. But, the reason why I brought this up is because there's three things that we came up with. Replacing trustee, has to be female, doesn't.
No,
I'm just stating it up. All right, but it has to be 18, some of us just really make it, a resident of Algonquin Township, and then also has to come from the Republican Party, okay? Besides that, there's there's no real rules, as we talked to TOI, and so what I would like to do is just get a feeling from the board, because as our attorney always says, it's up to the board, okay? What do you know? Up to the board. So anyways, I would like to, get some direction how we're gonna go ahead and do this, and what kind of time frame and dates that we would have. One of the things some townships had the supervisor pick out the top 4 candidates, or we'll go through the resumes. I personally, as much as we talk about pay to play or whatever, I do have a board here, much would like it different maybe, but they all have their own opinion and they all, make their own decisions. So I really think that, I know I've been getting a lot of calls. We get a lot of anonymous calls. When are you gonna pick the next trustee? Why can't you tell me your name? No, it's for private. But anyways, the bottom line is my friend wants to do it until he hears about what the job's like. So anyways, if we get a big stack of resumes, I don't really think it's my job to, narrow it down to 4 of my 4 best friends. I don't have that many friends, but it's like 2 of my best friends, or 1. But anyways, what I would say is I think we would need to have some meeting, if we get a bunch of resumes in, that we have a meeting just to narrow it down. And then, if we have 30 people that apply, I can't see going to the 30 interviews. I mean, it just.
Right.
So I need direction from the board, how you want to handle it. The May 29th is when is the effective date of the resignation. And I know our attorney said that we can go out and advertise now.
Yes.
Okay. I know that I got input from you, Trustee Jimmin, and that you would like to have a replacement by the next board meeting. I don't know if that's physically humanly possible.
There's a little problem you have to look at.
Okay,
It gives you a set date how much time you have.
60 days after
But
the
there's
resignation.
if you don't have adequate people or acceptable people, you can't just appoint somebody no matter what. There's got to be some method that you can continue it based on that. We'll have to look at it. Because I handled a number of I was committee at the county for administrator, et cetera. Time limit was not a problem, but you had people turned in, they wanted to be the administrator from McHenry County, and their background was as a night manager at 7-Eleven. And that wasn't just one of that type of thing. It was a tremendous number. Like, so we had 40-some people. Out of that 40, they set up a group that you could do this with two people and review and say, well, this isn't going to work.
However that wants to be done, I just need to get input how you want to do it. I just think that I don't want to let anyone feel like I'm just picking my one friend or whatever. It's just and taking 3 real bad ones or something. Here's the 4, and I think it's better that the whole board does the picking. That would just be a lot cleaner and more professional. And so I need the input of how you want us to go with it. I think that I'm pretty confident that we can put the questionnaire. We got, unless there's something you really want in the questionnaire, you can always, if someone's on the questionnaire, Trustee Lawrence was kind enough to put together the questionnaire. Pam already started the questionnaire, and we stole one from the county, or we stopped plagiarism.
Consideration.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty good about putting the application that we can get online. I think our clerk can definitely get it on line and then we want to make certain that they would come back. The other thing is, I guess I get, bring this up too, is we also forgot tonight to, we have announced tonight that we're changing the meeting night too, right? Next meeting. So we don't want to forget that as well.
We haven't
Yeah.
adjourned, so.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up, so
Before we leave.
Don't
that,
let me forget.
Good to know.
Do we have to vote on that, Jim? Okay.
okay, well, we should at least announce it, right? Okay, so I'll tell you, your floor, the board's floor, how you want to handle it, let me know.
All right, well, with regards to you, I like this little packet of the little drafts that people have come up with, you know, different ideas and drafts of different documents that people have compiled and thrown out for a starting point. I did write up one questionnaire just on my own, not based off of anybody else's. I do also like the one that Pam brought up. I had I do have a question though, both with mine and with Pam's. Are we allowed, and this is a question for Attorney Kelly, are we allowed to ask if anyone has ever been, I asked if anyone has been convicted of a misdemeanor or felony crime, only because I know that you're disqualified from holding public office if you've been convicted of felony crime. Are we allowed to ask about misdemeanor or no?
I've already talked to Pam
Yeah.
about that and told her to take out the word charged.
Okay,
And,
so
you know, we can take
convicted.
out yes, convicted is
So-
fine.
So when I say, have you been convicted of any misdemeanor or felony crime? If so, list date and offense, that's acceptable?
I'm gonna look at whether misdemeanors we should even discuss yet,
Okay.
but.
Well, I
the-
mean,
the-
just because, I mean, the only reason why, and I thought it should be omitted maybe as well, because the only really disqualifier is a felony
Right.
conviction.
Right.
But then again, if you've been convicted of misdemeanor fraud,
Mhm.
that might be something that's applicable to the job description and,
But that person can still vote.
Yes,
I don't think it disqualifies.
but it has an impact on who we would want to,
no, so,
Point.
I mean, maybe we could change that a little bit and say,
okay,
have you ever been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude? Which
Okay.
is fraud, essentially, that's the
okay.
moral turpitude.
All right, and then, the next thing I wanna do is I wanna ask, and I guess this would be the whole board, what would be the deadline that cause we're gonna have to put, I do like for immediate release, there's actually two. There's, I don't know who wrote which one, sorry. One says for immediate release, it looks like press release, and then one, Algonquin Township trustee position available, and they say much of the same substance. And the sample, I mean, I realize they're samples, but they both have a deadline of Friday, May 31st. We both know that that's not, we all know that's not possible. So can we come to a consensus right now on what the deadline should be so that we can have, because I feel that we should have at least 30 days so that we can not only all of us, not just you, review the questionnaires and resumes that come in,
Main thing
and
I want to
also
avoid,
interview those ones and whittle them
I
down.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but the main thing I didn't want to have is someone coming to the conclusion that we're trying to do some internet poll, that was the OMA violation. That's why I was saying, if we have so many resumes, we're just gonna have to call a meeting to have everyone here.
Right, or just have the clerk send them out to each of us.
Yeah, but you can't vote, then let's.
No, but we can
down.
review them.
Oh, no, as soon as anyone does a resume, there's no reason why we can't get that.
I think that should be done.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
clerk doesn't have to do it, our office can do it, but,
Yeah, I may not get the resumes.
yeah.
Chuck can pick someone with him and they can go over and the rest are available if you want to go through them. And you can pick out, two people, so at least it's it's got more than one opinion and it doesn't violate the law. Could be any, for whatever it matters.
Yeah, that's one.
But, yeah, and then the rest are available. If a person doesn't care and wants to pull something else out, they can.
That's
But
fine as long as you want to do it that way.
I think that's the best way, because otherwise everybody's reading them all, and like I said, you might be amazed at what you're gonna get.
I want to read them all. I
Well,
think
it's
that the
no
whole
problem.
board should read them
Well,
all.
then I guess you're the one that works with Chuck.
Especially even Carrie
Well, I
needs
don't
to
wanna
read
read
them
them
all,
all.
because in the case of a tie vote, in the case of a vacancy, she's the vote breaker. She's a tie vote breaker. I think everyone should.
She
be
should get
able
a
to-
copy.
Of course.
Yeah, that would.
And when you do vote on this, there could be a tie vote,
Yes,
because there'll be four.
because they're all
Right.
right.
I get that. Sure. But I guess what Dean's saying is maybe we sit you guys officially and make a committee, and Rachel and myself as the ones who go ahead and pick a couple, and then we present them, that one to the board, and
Yeah, all I wanna see
That's
is the top
fine,
four.
as long as
You want
everyone
top
still
four, yeah.
has the
They're available,
ability
yeah,
to.
because there's gonna be a
Okay,
certain
fine.
number that are totally,
that's fine. I just
Can
wanna
we
make
come
it
to
clear.
a consensus about a
It needs a
deadline?
date, I think it needs a deadline date.
June 15th.
4 PM, close of business
Yes,
day.
it'll be-
There needs to be methods. I put in mine, methods of application. You can either print it out by US mail, which has to be received by this date. We have to be very explicit in our language. Received by this date, 4 PM at this date, or by email, or hand delivered by 4 PM on this date. So what's the date? We need to come to a consensus on the date.
June 15th.
But we also need to give adequate notice, which I believe several, at least a few weeks should be.
Well, we can get, I think we can get some out, the press release out, and they add out there,
Well, that's, what I think that, how soon can you get it out?
I can get it, I can send it to Keith and we can.
Keith, I don't know how to post on our main page. I think it needs to be on our main page. I don't think it needs to be buried on the clerk's page.
Mhm.
And I only know how to post on my page.
Oh,
So Pam will,
I can have Keith do
have
it
Keith
right
do
away.
it
I think
right
it
away.
should do, I think it should be done
as
right
soon as you guys
away,
have a-
especially if you're looking
And
for
post it
a,
in the newspaper
and
right
the
away.
newspaper.
And
Well, we
I
can-
know,
Once Pam has what you guys want, I can send it to the Northwest Herald to, publish it.
Yes, you need to.
so my
Your
input is, I
language.
think the deadline should, for applications, for us to have that information to even begin the deliberation process and review process should be at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
At the very bare minimum, 3 weeks. I think it should be a month.
I think June 15th.
Okay, so you were saying you wanted it by the next meeting, so I'm trying to
Well, we
compromise
could have
with you.
been done, we could have been voting on this tonight, as far as I'm concerned. But, on June 15th, there was nothing stopping us
We
from
can't
putting
appoint
the ads in the
someone until
paper.
there's a vacancy.
There was nothing stopping us from putting ads in the paper, advertising for the open position. We could have had that, we could have added
Okay.
those things in.
I
That's-
understand.
Yeah.
So I think that we should get the ad in as soon as possible, tomorrow or as soon as possible. And
With your caveats of how it has to be delivered.
right,
Because that has to
and
go
so
in there.
that I have listed in my sample, Pam, you have that. And, because I've listed very explicitly
Mhm.
that, applications and resumes, if available, they can issue a resume if they want to. It's highly suggested.
Right, right.
But the application is required, and applications and resumes if available must be submitted via mail to 3702 US Highway 14, Crystal Lake, Illinois 60014, or via email to supervisor.township.com. And you can determine, Chuck, if that's at your own decision, if you want it at your own personal email or supervisor's office,
Okay.
or in person at the supervisor's office. Applications received after 4 PM on
June 15th.
that day. Do you want to go with June 15th?
Yes.
Is anyone opposed to that?
15th is a Saturday.
Good.
Okay, so then June 14th,
14th.
because it has to be a close of a
we
business
don't
day.
give them the
Correct.
Saturday.
So June 14th
Friday, June 14th by 4 PM.
by 4 PM. So applications received after 4 PM on June 14, 2019 will not be considered. That's the deadline.
Easy.
All right, and then we will go once that comes around, we have the information, and as the information comes in, we will
Whittle them down to the top four.
cross that bridge when we can.
Okay.
So I just also would like to let anyone who's watching, that if you submit a resume, once you submit your resume or application, you will be subject to FOIA. And
With
so-
redactions of certain content.
Yeah, So I'm just saying it's, put your name in, everyone's gonna let you put your name in.
If they request it, we're not gonna advertise it, but it is subject to the Freedom of Information Act.
Correct.
No application fees?
No.
$10,000.
All
Or
right,
that would whittle it
we
down.
don't need that.
I'm sorry.
Thinking of us having to pay them an application.
Oh,
fee. Hello?
Jim, do we need
Right.
to vote on
Executive session
anything?
now.
Okay.
They must be certified check or cash. Okay, there's only a joke, people. Can we need a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Yeah.
Just go.
For the purpose of
No.
pending
Yes, we
litigation.
do.
Adjourn to it?
No, we want
No,
to
you
do,
wanted to go into executive.
we want,
Yeah.
we'll make a motion to adjourn from, the regular meeting to.
Can you state it and then we'll say so moved?
Yeah.
We need a, motion to go into executive session for the purpose of pending litigation. And, that's pretty
That's
much it.
it.
Pending and existing?
Well, pending is existing, but yes.
Oh, okay. So I'll make a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of pending litigation, pending and existing litigation.
I'll second.
See you in 5 minutes.
I know I look at, real quick
Yeah.
discussion,
Sorry.
real quick discussion, in honor of the people that have stayed.
We
We're
We're
not
not gonna
planning
take
on
any
taking any action after the executive session, just so you know that, so that we're not.
Also, what is the time, how long do you think it's going to be?
I think that
10 minutes?
it will take less than 10 minutes.
Sorry.
There are just two items I need to present to you in the middle.
But just so you know, we're not taking
It
any,
won't be 10 minutes.
we're taking any action. All right,
Roll.
roll call.
Victor,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Lawrence,
No.
Shay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a compromise situation.
I'm gonna turn all this in, I'll take this
And
stuff
that
home.
is recall. And because it eliminates, it allows